Rafael Devers. I don't know if you guys have heard, struggling pretty bad. 19 at bats coming into Wednesday, 15 strikeouts. He has yet to record a hit. He does have an RBI though, so he's driving him in. Um, I think a lot has obviously been said about his issues. We're not going to rehash everything that happened with the Alex Bregman signing and the move to designated hitter necessarily. But when you guys look at his struggles early season, yeah, it's really, really early. But is there anything that you're looking at here that is a concerning thing that we need to start cleaning up before it becomes panic mode for the Red Sox?
I mean, the at bats are not remotely competitive. Like it's one thing to strike out, but he looks lost. And I think some of that is because he didn't see live pitching for months, and the Red Sox told him to take it slow, and then he basically saw no live pitching during spring training. So I feel like that's probably playing a very big role in all of this. Um, but it is emblematic of I guess how little room there is for things to not work out for the guys who are supposed to make the Red Sox go. Like last week, we were talking about the very real possibility that Christian Campbell starts off 0 for 20 with 15 strikeouts. And that has decidedly not been the problem. It's been the exact opposite. So we haven't really had the conversation about, well, what happens if Devers isn't the guy he's supposed to be? And I think that's because for so long, even after he got the contract, it's kind of been like, well, I think there's another level we're waiting for. He just hasn't done it for a full year. So it's kind of a precarious spot, but because of all of the surrounding circumstances, it's 6 days into the season, 5 games into the season. I'm not panicked yet, even though it looks really bad.
Yeah, I tend to agree with a lot of what Logan said. Logan, how did you describe it at the start there? It was non-competitive or something.
Non-competitive, yeah.
So like I think that's technically true in some aspects. Like when he swings the bat, it is very non-competitive to
It's
the point
bad.
where it's like it looks like if I were to go down to the local, pitch and putt batting cage complex, crank that thing up to 95 and try to hit it and be like, "Oh, this is not good." Like we used to do this in high school all the time where it's like we'd get into the garage into the tunnel and we just fire that thing up and be like, "Let's see if we can make contact." Like that's what it looks like when he's swinging. Even at like 92. I saw
Yeah.
him like swing through a 92-mile-per-hour cutter the other night where it's like that's that's kind of concerning. But like it's competitive in the way that I don't think he's giving away at bats either. Like, and I don't think there's a lot of this talk about, the narratives or whatever with him moving to DH and basically I think some people are like he's pouting so he's not putting forth good effort, et cetera, et cetera. But like I was looking at this yesterday and his chase rate this year is I think it's 20%. For his career, it's basically 33%. So like he has good discipline at the plate. He's swinging at strikes. He's just not making contact. Whereas like we saw this, Manny Ramirez, this was, when he was ready to just completely mail it in, it would be like waving at stuff inside the strike zone, outside the strike zone. Like you could tell when he was not giving full effort. With Devers, like if he was just swinging at everything, flailing around, that would be one thing. But he's making good decisions. The execution is just terrible, and so I do think the biggest issue outside of like mechanically, I think he's changed a little bit of his stance with where his hands are. Like I think that's something that they should look into if they haven't already. I'm sure they have. I mean, I'm a guy in a basement, so what do I know? Um, I think the bigger thing is like, yeah, he's still playing catch up, and this is his spring training, and the problem with it is he's facing 96 every night, and you're not facing that guy who's going to be destined for double A that you can get some good swings in, on March 14th in Dunedin or whatever. So like, I think that's the biggest issue is he's literally and physically or literally and figuratively catching up at this point.
The early returns on Devers and Campbell, I feel like have been really reassuring reminders of that humans play these games. You know,
That's the other thing. Yep.
with all the analytics and stuff that we have in this game, like you saw Christian Campbell go out there his first game and suck, and it was obvious that he was dealing with first game jitters. And since then, he's been a machine. And on the flip
Yeah.
side, Devers, everything that you know about him coming in, you'd say, oh, this guy's going to thrive. But obviously, everything that happened this offseason impacted him mentally. It ended up impacting him in spring training, and that ended up snowballing and impacting him in the regular season. So I think that these are good reminders that like these are people, and as much as we like to say like, oh, Campbell's tools are this, and Devers' pedigree and past performance is this. At the end of the day, they're people with minds and hearts, and things that can happen to them affect them, just like you or me.
I shared
People,
this. I tweeted about this the other day, the Campbell thing specifically, where it's like when I played Division III college baseball. I remember the first time I pitched, like my leg would not stop shaking. Like it was literally shaking as I came set. I thought I was gonna balk because my leg was shaking so much, and that was in Chandler, Arizona, against like Concordia University, let alone Globe Life Field against Native Volley. So it's like, yeah, man, this is gonna take some time, and like I do think that sort of mental anguish does compound physical mistakes in baseball more so than any other sport. I think that's a big reason for Devers as well.
I don't think enough is being. I feel like this is treated as a cop out whenever it's said, but there is something to me about the fact that not everyone is cut out as to be a DH, and you don't know until you try to make them a full DH. That is a very, very difficult role, especially if you are a routine oriented person or someone who likes to get in a flow. Like, think about the fact that Devers seen essentially no live pitching, and all he can do, like, not that him playing in the field would necessarily help things that much, but it would maybe keep him more engaged or something like that. Instead, he's having one dreadful looking at bat, sitting there and thinking about it for 90 minutes, having another dreadful at bat, and then sitting there and thinking about it for 90 more minutes. So, there is the possibility that, I mean, off the jump, I think there is going to be an acclimation period just to getting used to a very different role. I think it's easy to reduce it to, oh, he's just hitting and he's a good hitter, so he should be able to do it. Keeping yourself occupied and in that space for a long time, not everyone can do it. That's why JD Martinez was so good at, because he's so wired weirdly about hitting that it was like he could fill that time. We don't know how Devers is going to respond to this. And so it's possible that like he's just not a good match for that kind of role, or that his offense will backslide a little bit with it. But at a certain point, it's like, well, if you're going to pay a guy 300 something million, he should probably be able to hit no matter where you're asking him to hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what the money's for, right? Like,
Yeah.
Also, if he played better defense, he wouldn't have lost his job at third base. I would say that like that thing that you're talking about is probably true for a lot of guys. I didn't think it would manifest itself a week into this season, and that's why I don't, like I think there's, at least if you start a new job, you're like, well, even if you don't like the job, you're like, well, at least I'm gonna, this is new, I'm gonna put forth a good effort, or try to make a good impression, or like the malaise will set in 6 months from now, not right away. So it's that might be it.
But I don't think it's an effort thing. I don't think it's an effort thing. Like that's why I'm saying like it could just be an acclimation thing. Like I guess it is a little surprising that it's happening this quickly, but it also is like, well, this is a completely different role from what he's used to.
I think that probably rears its head more in like June when you're in the middle of a West Coast road trip. You're just like, this again, like God,
Yeah.
But it might be. I don't know. Like at this point, everything should be on the table with how bad it's looked. I mean,
Like,
it's been historically bad.
I'm just imagining being shell shocked. That's my thing. Is it's like,
Yeah.
okay, he goes up in the top of the first and he strikes out against Native Aldi. And he's expecting to go out onto the field and play. And instead, he's sitting until the fourth inning or the third inning or whenever it is. It's like, that has to be a little jarring, especially when you haven't played in any spring training games. Like, he hasn't even gotten in that, like, workflow, if you will, in a spring training grapefruit league level. So I agree that you would think it would more likely show up during the doldrums of the season, but couldn't there be a level of shell shock that it's like, this is kind of a weird new ordeal here that I'm just getting thrown into?
To be fair to Devers, I mean, he is not the only person that's been struggling. He's just been the most obvious person. I think so. The Red Sox as a team, team batting average 201, on base 289, OPS plus 71, Sandy Leone-esque OPS plus.
I mean, Sandy Leone was raking for the Braves in spring training, so careful with that.
very early, but I think, Logan, you and I and Dakota were talking coming into the season, and the lineup was really the one thing that we felt was going to be the stone cold lock. And a lot of the other areas that we thought they were going to have issues with, they look a little more confident now. Uh, Again, not a lot of concern with so few games that they've played. That's another topic entirely of how many games Major League Baseball teams play in the first week of the season. It feels like it's impossible to ever to catch a game. But Logan, do you still feel, as you kind of strongly put heading into this year, that this is not the best lineup that they can field?
Well, that feels like a trap question with the way Devers is sitting right now. But I think we would all probably agree that this is not the version of Devers we would be expecting. So um, I mean, Christian Campbell's been playing well enough to offset that concern. I guess to catch Mike up, my take was that, and also my point was moot in some ways because my take was that they weren't actually putting out the best possible lineup, because the best possible lineup is one that has Bregman at second, Devers at third, and Yoshida DHing. Because Yoshida was hitting very well during spring, and I still think that they need to see what they have in that bat. But that was largely rooted in the fact that I thought Campbell was going to be a slow starter. So I'm not going to fully back off of it because we're only 5 games into the season. And despite what you guys would probably say, I'm actually not that reactionary. But I'll play both sides of the coin for now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. I got caught up to speed. I just disagree with, that's your take, that's your opinion. It was interesting too. When they signed Bregman, I was doing a story for NESN.com, and I called Lou Merloni and I was talking to Lou about it and said, like, it was basically like, what does Bregman have to do for his defense to play at second? Like, what's the process going to be like for him over the next 4 weeks as spring training begins? And like, he's like, he answered all the questions, but everything was like, well, if he does play second, and like, he's like, I'm not so sure he's going to play second. Like, let's give Campbell. So like, I guess if I were, having this discussion with you when you made that first point, would be like, well, this is what they've wanted all along. So like, I think that he was gonna, if he showed anything close to league average in terms of his ability to put good at bats out there, he was gonna make the team as a second baseman. I think that's what the plan was the whole time. I think with how straightforward, how direct Cora has been about the DH with Devers, I think that's pretty clear that that's something that they've had in their mind the whole time. And like, I think it's hard to, turn around and say that this is not their best offensive lineup if that's what you think, just based on one guy's 5-game slump, with that being Devers. And like, I think Water probably finds its level with both of those guys, Devers and Campbell, where it's like Devers is going to hit at some point, or at least, not beat this. And Campbell is, I was looking at it earlier, Campbell hasn't touched a breaking ball yet. Like, he has not, like, all of his production has come against fastballs. That I'm actually surprised that hasn't started to change already. And maybe he's been in some pretty good spots with, like, they kind of have to come after him. And he does have a great command of the strike zone, so he's getting himself in fastball accounts. But he has not seen that thing where he sees one fastball a game, and that's coming at some point, and he's going to have to make his adjustments. But like, I have faith and confidence in him making those adjustments based on what I saw in the spring from him, which was, look, lost at the start of the year, or start of the spring, and got better and better. The results weren't necessarily there, but he was squaring stuff up, and his command of the strike zone was really good for a guy his age. So I do think that on April 2nd or whatever today is, it's their best lineup. And I think it'll be even better for them on June 2nd, if that's what you want to kind of project forward. So I believe in what they're doing here. And I respect your ability to sit on the fence with your take, Logan. So,
well, you did kind of bring one of my big concerns, which is that the book is now getting out on Christian Campbell. So how does he respond to that? Like, in retrospect, I really shouldn't be that surprised that he got off to a pretty good start, because everything we've been told is that he's supposed to be a useful offensive player. And I mean, he hasn't really played above AA, so no one knew how to attack him. I think it's plausible he's really struggling in June. I mean, Jackson Merrill's probably a good
I was just gonna
example
bring him
where,
up. Yeah.
yeah, he had some really lean months in the summer, but he's still, I mean, the old overall stats looked good, especially the average stats. And so, you know, who's to say it's not going to pan out similarly? But I think this is going to require a little bit more patience than people are expecting, especially after the initial returns. And that's why I thought that their best option was to put Bregman at second, because I've I'm trepidatious about fast risers, and so I thought it would have made sense to keep him in the minors and let him keep developing.
Well, this is also why you need Devers, Cassis, Duran, Story to start hitting, is because
Yeah,
when that downturn does come, you theoretically can absorb it the way that the Padres did because your lineup is so good. So
yeah.
if those guys don't get their act together, then it's gonna look really bad with Campbell. But if those guys are hitting, people won't notice.
Yeah, I always think that's interesting because we always talk about, oh, you got to be strong like 1 through 9. Your pitching staff's got to be good 1 through 8 or whatever it is you got. But at the end of the day, like one or two guys can make a huge difference, like one way or the other. And like if Casas, Devers, and Bregman aren't hitting in the middle or high up in your lineup, like you can't. It doesn't matter how hot your 6 and 7 hole hitters or 5 and 6, whatever Abreu and Campbell are, because like that's not like you need it from the guys that are batting more often, that are getting up in more situations. And it's nice that Abreu is hitting the cover off the ball, but that's not something that can sustain you when you're getting nothing earlier on. I mean, you look at I'll even give a nod to like Yoshida, that Logan was saying that we've seen him hit in the past. If you kind of think back the last couple of years when everyone was saying, oh, the Red Sox are playing well, it was because Yoshida and Devers there in the middle of the lineup, they were, they kind of coincided with those two guys hitting well. And if from the pitching side, it's similar. I mean, how much difference does one guy at the top of a pitching rotation make for the rest of it? So, yeah, I mean, I just think that Devers and Casas and Bregman, I believe, are going to hit. I don't believe that Story is ever going to hit. I'm the least Trevor Story believer on the face
No one
of
hates
this
Story more
planet.
than you do.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's tough to hate a guy who doesn't play and isn't any good, but yeah, sure. I guess I hate him.
I mean, he's an interesting case because like the money is now at the point where it's probably easier to absorb, whether it's making a move off of him, whether that's moving him to the bench or some sort of roster move, because if Meyer keeps hitting, they're gonna have to play him. And I think that's the thing too, looking broadly at this team. And I think when you look at this team, especially as it pertains to the offense, that discussion for until further notice needs to include Anthony and Meyer. And like they might have some tough decisions to make on guys that they've paid in the past if Meyer and Anthony continue to hit. And I think that that's a whole nother, element to this as well. Story is, he's got to find it. Like it's just, the underlying numbers aren't good. The eye test isn't good. The defense has been fine, but yeah, like those are, again, kind of to your point of like this lengthening the lineup type of situation. Like that only works if guys do what you expect them to do. And I don't think he's going to be a 5-win player who's hitting 30 home runs and he's back to Coors Field Trevor Story, but you certainly need him to be 1 or 2-win player who's a threat at the plate, because otherwise that's the thing. Like we start poking holes in the lineup 1 to 9, then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, you need him to be more than Steven True. And like
Right.
that's basically all he is right now. While we're blowing up the Red Sox lineup and talking about players they've already paid, I guess well, I'm workshopping a take now. Is Rafaela the odd man out here? Because I'm thinking about when Meyer comes up, like, all right, so Story goes to the bench. That makes sense. Doesn't it also kind of make some sense to maybe put Campbell in center field? Like you could offset the loss of Rafael by putting Campbell up there, or I guess once Roman Anthony's up, then you have Anthony, Duran, and Abreu. But I don't know. Now I'm thinking like Rafael has never hit, and this is mostly rooted in me thinking about how to get Yoshida's bat in the lineup once he's healthy. But I don't know why I'm still hell bent on making the Yoshida thing work. I also do have all the time in the world for Trevor Story. I think he might find it.
That's a
But I don't
terrible
know.
sign for Trevor's Story.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If he has
Yeah.
your faith.
Sandy's still looking for it too.
I mean, Sandy can get hot. Yeah, I don't know. Just thinking like Rafael has never hit in the majors, and there's a real chance he is just like a super utility guy. And so I'm just starting to think like Christian Campbell has way more experience in center field than he does at second base.
So like where do you think Rafael is going when you say like he's the odd man out? What does that mean?
I mean, probably the bench, but then it's like, well, it's David Hamilton or Romy Gonzalez, your second baseman.
Oh, so like that's what I think he goes to the bench and like probably Romy's the odd man out in terms of like roster construction.
DFA'd.
Yeah, and I think and then so like it hurts to lose. I mean, the problem is if you lose Romy Gonzalez, you don't have a backup first baseman as far as I can tell, which is
or a backup third baseman.
Well, like the
You'd
third
probably
baseman
sooner lose Hamilton. Because you're covered in the if you keep Rafael on the roster, you probably get rid of Hamilton because you're covered in the middle infield.
I guess, yeah, but like Rafaela technically could play the middle infield if you, yeah.
That's what I'm saying is that Hamilton becomes more redundant than Gonzalez.
I do think it probably depends on who comes up, like who this move is for. I think has a lot to do with it too, obviously, because Meyer and Anthony played different positions. Like one's an infielder, one's an outfielder. So like that is part of the calculus. I think my guess though would still be like Anthony's the first to come up because I think you have to give Story as much time as you can just because he's a veteran and you've invested more money in him. And I do think his ceiling is higher than Rafaela. But yeah, I think Rafaela as a fourth outfielder is assuming Anthony comes up here and looks even half what he has looked like in AAA so far, makes Rafaela even more valuable. Like that is your peak outfield. If everybody's going well, that Duran, Anthony, Abreu with Rafaela as a fourth outfielder that's borderline elite, I think. And then yeah, Romy's probably like the odd man out, like I said, but at least you can move Campbell around if you have to. It does get a little Connor Wong could play first, I guess too. There's that.
That is true. I think I'm arriving at the take that they just have a lot of bad contracts. Like it feels like I don't love the Rafaela contract right now. I don't love the Story contract. I don't love the Yoshida contract. And it's like I'm thinking, okay, so Story gets hot and Meyer keeps hitting. You could theoretically move Campbell to the outfield. Put Rafael on the bench, and if Story's playing, he's done the second base thing before.
Yeah, the Story and Yoshida contracts, I think, are albatrosses, and not that those players are bad players. I mean, all jokes aside about Story, I think, and same thing about Yoshida, but I do think that their contracts, in a way, restrict them from what they would like to do otherwise.
Outside of an injury, I have no idea what you do with Yoshida. Like to that point, like it's just it feels like this my computer simulator game that I play is that you end up with like this. It's like I have no idea what to do with this guy. Like literally, I'm like,
I mean,
like
that's part of the reason.
It's in
that's
MVP
part of the
baseball,
reason.
MVP baseball 2005. Do you remember when the smiley face would turn red?
Yeah,
and it has a big frowny face. Like that guy is very.
Yeah,
upset.
You're like I can't do anything with you. Like there's no.
He is causing a ruckus in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that there is they just have horrible asset management. Like there's no reason Yoshida hit well enough that like I get it. That contract's an albatross now, but they back themselves into a corner with some of these guys by refusing to let Yoshida play the field. Like you can't even like pray that you could hide him in right field at Yankee Stadium or something like that. And it's just like now they have zero leverage in any of these moves, and it's like, all right, so you want to try and let Yoshida get hot so you can trade him? Well, you can't freaking do that because Devers is your DH. So what are you doing there? So it's just like they have a lot of bodies, and I get having depth, but this almost doesn't even feel like depth. It feels like people they just don't know what to do with.